He woke before dawn in the quiet of the Frederick, Colorado suburb, the kind of silence that usually wrapped the small neighborhood in safety. But that morning, Chris Watts lay in bed rehearsing a decision that would unravel everything: his marriage, his family, his future, and stain the Watts name forever. Only hours earlier, Shanann had returned from a business trip. She was 15 weeks pregnant with their third child, a baby boy they planned to name Nico. She had been tired, nauseous, and worried. Something had been off with Chris for weeks. He had grown distant, stopped touching her, stopped talking, stopped being the man she had built a life with. She didn't know yet that he had been having an affair. She didn't know that while she was working to save their marriage, he was imagining a life without her, without Bella, without Celeste, without the responsibilities he believed were suffocating him. When their argument began in the early hours of August 13th, 2018, it was a familiar conversation turned toxic. Shanann confronted him. She asked whether he still wanted their marriage. She asked whether there was someone else. He told her he didn't love her anymore. And then, just like that, in a moment that would defy reason and haunt millions, he climbed on top of her and strangled her until her body fell still. The house remained painfully quiet. Bella, 4 years old, and Celeste, 3, were still asleep in their rooms, unaware that their world had already collapsed. But the horror didn't end there. He wrapped Shanann's body in a bedsheet. As he dragged her downstairs, Bella watched from the top of the staircase. Her small voice asked the question that would echo forever. "What's wrong with Mommy?" He loaded the 3 of them into his truck, his dead wife, his 2 frightened daughters, and drove toward a remote oil site operated by his employer. The sun climbed slowly above the plains as he traveled, a cruel contrast to what was happening inside the cab of that truck. Shanann lay lifeless on the floor. Girls leaned against each other, confused, whispering. Bella began to cry. When they arrived, he committed the final, unthinkable acts. First Celeste, then Bella, each strangled by the father who had once carried them on his shoulders, kissed scraped knees, held their tiny hands. He lowered each daughter into a separate oil tank. The spaces were narrow, meant for industrial work, not bodies. Shanann he buried in a shallow grave nearby, a grave he dug hurriedly in the dirt. By mid-morning, he was back home acting as though his life were unchanged. He texted Shanann's friends, asking if they had seen her. He called hospitals. He invited police into his home, lied through his teeth, and televised his fake concern with the fractured confidence of a man who believed charm could still save him. But cracks in his constructed story appeared almost immediately. His neighbors noticed his odd behavior. Detectives sensed his emotional flatness. Surveillance footage contradicted his claims. The facade crumbled quickly. When he finally confessed, it came not as a moment of remorse, but as a final attempt to control the narrative, claiming Shanann had killed the girls, a lie that collapsed under the weight of forensic evidence and common sense. In November 2018, facing overwhelming proof, he pled guilty to all 9 felony counts: the murders of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste, the unlawful termination of baby Nico's life, and the disposal of the bodies. He received 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Now Chris Watts lives out his days in a Wisconsin prison, buried not in sand or soil, but in the irreversible stillness of a life without freedom. His days are monotonous: meals, silence, the hum of fluorescent lights, and he retreats increasingly into a solitary world. The man who once lived behind manicured lawns and a carefully curated social image now lives behind reinforced steel and constant surveillance. Shanann's family grieves in ways that have no vocabulary. Bella and Celeste are remembered in sunlight, in family photos, in voices recorded on Shanann's phone. Tiny girls, dancing, laughing, singing. Nico never had the chance to take his first breath. The world moved on, but the story remains. A chilling reminder that sometimes the monsters people fear are not strangers in the night, but the ones who kiss them goodbye each morning.